Right. Many of them are not, and I would never say that Jews are proportionally more likely to commit white-collar crime than non-Jews. It was just an attempt at a joke.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Referencing the tremendous success of Jews in finance, and with that comes the dark side of when finance goes bad.
Well, there is some history here, and I suspect you know this history, and I'd like to hear you talk about it for a minute. Luke Ford is on the line, by the way, and he is a blogger. His website is lukeford.net, and he writes about a lot of what would you call? It's not celebrity gossip. What is your site?
It mainly focuses on Jewish life, which also means a lot of stuff on the movie industry and book publishing.
So what was my point with all this before we got into?
We're talking about the influence of Jews in the world of finance.
Yeah,
hundreds of years ago, finance was basically left to the Jews because Christians regarded it as beneath their dignity and as a sin to lend money. So Jews have always been disproportionately influential in the world of finance.
That's exactly what I was referencing, yeah. And also, Muslims, they don't believe in interest, that there are ways that Muslims make loans that don't have interest associated with them. Do you know about this, what I'm referring to?
Yes, and there's the same thing in Judaism, actually, because in the Torah it prohibits you from lending to a fellow Jew at interest. And so Rabbi Hillel, 2,000 years ago, designed a way around this so that you're not really lending to your fellow Jew, but you're investing with him, and thereby you can make profits.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Well, do you suspect, and we don't know how religious Bernard Madoff is, 70 years old, do you suspect that he is, would you be surprised to learn that he would be an Orthodox Jew, or do you think he's a Reform?
I would not be surprised because he is the chairman of the Yeshiva University Business School, which is an Orthodox institution. Also being in New York, while in LA, maybe 8% of all Jews are Orthodox. In New York, in Manhattan, it's more like 30%.
And does that play any role, you think? I mean, as an Orthodox Jew yourself, the idea of creating a Ponzi scheme or taking people's money, isn't that a huge sin?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge sin. But again, in Orthodox life, it's much more insular and tribal. And so what you do within your insular group is far more important than what you do outside of it. So often you can buy high status in your community by doing something unethical outside of your community.
Is there a greater sin if you take from your own? In other words, I'm looking at the names of the people who were involved here, and we began talking about this, how most of them have Jewish-sounding names, including Carl Shapiro, the founder and former chairman of K. Windsor, Inc., Bed Bath & Beyond, Inc., co-founder Leonard Feinstein, Yeshiva University, Fairfield Green Advisors, Maxim Capital Management, Ascot Partners. I mean, a lot of the people whose names are associated here are Jewish names. Do you think that he... can you, I know this is just a guess on your part, but is it worse when you take from those who share your religious values, or does it not matter?
It's horrible either way. Ethics are hard to teach. Like, a rabbi can stand up and talk, but it's easy to forget about it. So one of the ways you may maintain group cohesion is by performing a lot of similar rituals. But you can perform these similar rituals with your fellow Orthodox Jews or whatever insular group that you belong to. But if you choose not to take on the ethical demands of your group, it's kind of easy to get away with it. And so that's how I understand the criminal and unethical behavior by those who seem, at least nominally, to be pledged to the same value system that I am. But it's easy to keep Sabbath and to observe the Jewish dietary laws and observe the holidays, and then go out and screw people in business, because the human being has such a flexible conscience, and traditional Jews are not
immune.
immune from this
Yeah.
very human failing.
Yeah. Do you know anyone that knew him? Have you talked to anybody who personally lost money, had invested with him, knew him, met him?
I have not talked to anyone who knew him. I'm in touch with foundations and charities and philanthropies that have lost massive amounts of money with him, but I don't know anyone who knows him personally.
What's interesting to me is $50 billion is a lot of money to just evaporate. I was asking my brother, how does that happen? How I understand $5 million, $10 million, maybe you bought 6 homes and you have one in the Hamptons that's worth $20 million and one in in Malibu worth $10 million, and that adds up. You could get $100 million in property, but how do you lose $50 billion? It's an unfathomable amount of money to just piss away, and I guess the best way to understand it is that a lot of people put money in and took their money back with their returns, these 8% returns. And if you've been doing it for, well, what do we figure, 48 years, nearly 5 decades, assuming that it was always this kind of a Ponzi scheme, that there were people that came and went and took their profits and left, that's where the money went.
Yeah, I can't get my head around it. I mean, $50 billion is just, I'll have to see the movie.
You have to see the movie, yeah. And what's interesting is it doesn't seem as though he was lavishing himself. You don't hear stories about, Bernie Madoff with... Madoff is kind of a funny name for him, isn't it? He made off with...
Yeah.
That Madoff with, buying an island in the Caribbean and, flying in... He's not living like a Saudi prince. You didn't hear weird stories about crazy investments that he was, building skyscrapers in the deserts of Dubai. And I wonder, as this all unravels, if in fact all the money has been lost. I suspect that probably a lot of it is not gone.
Or is being given to charities.
What do you mean?
I mean, he used to be quite philanthropic, so...
I know, but how much could he give away? How much could he have given away over the years? I mean, if you gave away $1 billion, $1 billion is 1,000 million. If he gave $2 million here and $5 million here and $10 million here, that wouldn't even be the interest on $1 billion.
Wow, correct. I can't get my head around it either.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's really incredible. Well, what updates have you made other than this sources close to Yeshiva University and from the New York Times story?
Well, I broke the story that the Jewish Community Foundation of Los Angeles had also been taken in. This was the primary holding company for the Jewish Federation of Los Angeles, and the Jewish Federations are probably the single largest charity in the United States, and they pretty much limit their fundraising to just the 1% of the population that is Jewish. So it's an amazing accomplishment of the Jewish people. And the Jewish Community Foundation here in Los Angeles has apparently lost between $8 and $18 million, or between 6 and 10% of its total value lost to Madoff's investment company.
And do you have any association with the Jewish Federation?
It's just been something that I've given money to. I've gone to many of their events. I went on a Jewish Federation trip to Israel in the year 2000, and thank God on my bus there are twice as many women as guys. So I have a very warm spot in my heart towards the Jewish Federation.
Can I get personal for just a moment here? You're not a wealthy guy. What are you doing giving money to charity?
Exactly right. If you give just a little bit, it kind of entitles you to... You have to give a little bit to get into their events. So in 2000, I was at the height of my financial status. It was just before the web crash. It was right during the web crash. So I went on their trip in July 2000 feeling quite flush, and that I'd have like a $3,000 a month income for life in my mind anyway. So I showed out, I think it was $3,000 for the trip, and then you had to make a mandatory $500